Karibuni, everybody. Karibuni. Thank you, Sharon. This is Nairobi. There you see the city of Nairobi behind the lions. Mount Kenya. Up close. A little closer. This is the escarpment road. Look to your left. This is the view from my high school. This is the escarpment road up close. This is my view from my high school with the escarpment road to the right and Mount Longonot. This is a dormant volcano. These were hats we used to wear because it got cold there. Very old image, very old image. The crater of Mount Longonot. A tattoo I never got. Duty-free shop because we're close to the border. Camping grounds. Lake Naivasha or Lake Turkana. Lots of flamingos in the Great Rift Valley. It's got a lot of minerals. Depending on the minerals in the lake, it's how pink they are. It's late. This is my homage to all of you. Thank you so much for coming. I appreciate you being here. And then of course this one. And this one. Right, well, Kujahapa, that means come here. Karibuni sana, that means welcome. And Twende wa safari, let's go on a trip. Safari is an international, I guess, adopted kind of name by now. I don't know, but I would say that safari, well, translated, it is a trip. Now we call it adventure, road trip, whatever. But anyway, it's so good to have you here. Thank you so much for coming. I was going to actually sing for you, but I don't know if Sharon wants to come up at this point in time before we head over because Sharon has to leave. Maybe she wants to come up and talk. I do not know. As I mentioned in the chat, we have about a 17-second delay tonight. I don't understand why these delays. I have a lag. So just to see if Sharon wants to come up or if I just continue, because what you see on the ticker below is part of a song that's called Jambo Buana. And if I may do a little rendition, it goes something like this. Jambo, Jambo Buana, habari gani, nzuri sana, wageni, wakaribishwa, Kenya yetu, hakuna matata. Kenya nchi nzuri, hakuna matata. Nchi ya maajabu, hakuna matata. Nchi yenye amani, hakuna matata. Hakuna matata, hakuna matata. Hey, Danny, it's good to have you. Karibuni sana to the stream where we're going to head off to my high school. Now, I've enjoyed doing my Orchids and Stories videos, I have to say, very, very much, but I find that they are a little bit, I would say, tedious to orchestrate. I don't know how much information I can put in there. So I figured we could do this. I've got Sharon in the background. I figured we could do this on a live stream. Now, hey Sharon, are you okay with being on camera? Let me know. Give me, yep, you're okay with being on camera. Okay, here comes Sharon. There she is. Hey, Orchid Ninja Sharon's son. Do you have your mic on?
I think so.
Awesomeness.
That, Jamie?
Yeah, that's fantastic. Hey, all the way from Australia. Yes, this makes staying up late worthwhile. Look at all those rare roots of joy back there. This is awesome. Fantastic.
Yes.
Amazing.
This is how I work most days. So I'm pretty lucky. I've got my north sun over here. I've got my southern sun or southwest sun over here, and literally I'm surrounded by my jungle. So
That's fabulous.
I'm very, very happy.
You've got something in bloom there. You've got something in bloom there.
I thought I'd bring a friend. So
yes.
This is a beautiful Cymbidium native to Australia. This is the Cymbidium canaliculatum. I've only had it. I can't take credit for these blooms. I got this from my local orchid society in their last show of the year a couple of weeks ago. But I love this silver foliage. How good is that?
It's just incredible.
Beautiful. Look, I'm not the biggest fan of Cymbidiums, I have to admit, but this one is just lovely. Unfortunately, she's not fragrant, but who cares?
Right?
Who cares? Sprays of flowers like this. Who cares?
Right. No, but you're right. I mean, I find that commercial Cymbidiums do have a certain charm. I only have one. But when you come up against something like this, like a species, Anaraita caribunisana, I have to say that you can't walk past it. The flowers are so much more different as well. They're not
They're absolutely beautiful. I don't know if I can actually get one of the blooms to actually show on the camera. I'm not as practiced as this as other plant people, but they're gorgeous. They're like a reddy maroon. Oh, the flower dropped. You learn not to touch your orchids, and when the flowers won't drop. And yeah, she's beautiful. I absolutely love it. And my favorite thing to see is new growth right here.
Already in bloom and the new growths. Yeah, I am a little bit jelly of that one because I love its upright growth habit.
Yeah,
it's gorgeous. It's just
really symmetrical
and it has those glaucous leaves like a Brassavola digbyana. Sorry, Rhincolalia digbyana. Goodness me. But just remember, you and I, we see each other, and the chat is like 17 seconds behind, okay? Just so that, because you and I are one-on-one, and I can also see that variegated monstera in the background there.
Yes, this is one of my other babies. So this is I propagate and sell these. So
right.
Or I will be. I haven't actually opened the business yet. So and the business, of course, is Rare Roots of Joy.
Of course it is.
Takes something that I've been doing for a long time, and hopefully just makes a little side hustle out of it. So we'll see.
I'm sure it will, because your restrictions, your regulations are pretty strict there, aren't they, when it comes to plants?
Yeah. So I can only sell plants to certain states. There are a number of states here where quarantine laws simply prohibit, and they've just tightened them even further. So a lot of nurseries who were able to get a license with the to be able to sell into places like South Australia, Tasmania, and Western Australia, they're now not able to do so because they've tightened up those regulations, and we're just like, oh. So while we'd love to be able to sell to you guys, it's just simply prohibitive.
Yeah.
I find you can't import anything with flasks. It's as simple as that.
And I find that's what I mentioned in the live last night. I find that so impressive for the Australian growers, that they put so much more dedication, love, and time, because like Julie-san has to raise flask babies. And that takes, I mean, how many years until blooms? So there's so much more to it for you guys. And I have mad respect for all of that. And here we see unboxings, and you've got the mature, flowering, blooming size orchids or plants that have come quite large.
We do have very, very unusual plants and flowers here. I think no one, I think it's the one thing that's pretty well known in Australia is that our flora and our fauna is a little weird.
Yeah, but it's gorgeous. I mean, the book that I got from Julie's son, oh, it's just makes you want to weep. You're like, why did you do this? Why do you look like that? I mean, we looked at one of the Queen of Sheba the other night, and it's just you guys. I mean, you have the animal kingdom in the orchid bloom, so to speak, across the board, including insects. It's fantastic.
We do, and you're absolutely right, Michael McCarthy. The regulations for importing plants, they're just too strict. I mean, if you're going to have your plants, I mean, we've got some beautiful plant nurseries just north of us in Papua New Guinea and Malaysia and Indonesia. They're right on our doorstep, but yet we can't import from them. To be able to import, the plants have to be in quarantine for 4 months. And they go through 3 separate quarantine inspections. 4 months. Who's going to water the plants for 4 months? Nobody.
Exactly. They don't have the facilities.
Yeah, that's right. So, and the costs to do that are astronomical. When you're importing rare plants, and I'm talking plants that cost, $1,000 each, it's just not going to happen. So, it's just ridiculous. So I find that getting plants from I call them the quarantine states to Victoria, my state of Victoria, is fine. That way's okay, but it's actually sending plants to, say, people like Julie. Hi, Julie. You have an awesome channel. I love your channel, Julie's Orchid. Being able to send, say, a plant to someone like Julie, then it's just not going to happen. They have to have this concierge service, and I looked into perhaps doing that myself. And then I quickly threw that idea, just like, it's not happening. It's just not happening.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Well, I hope that there is a positive side to all of this. I don't know. I mean, there's got to be a reason behind it, even within the own country. There has to be a reasoning. I mean, I can understand the imports from, across the border, but within the own country, there has to be a reason without, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't want to use profanity, but people are being a little bit.
Yeah, look, we are a much more regulated country than places like the US and the UK and Europe. And the reason why is, I guess, we're a little justified in that we've managed to keep out so many diseases and things that have destroyed our agriculture industry and our environment, that have just run rampant in other places. And we're an island. Ultimately, we're the biggest continent, and we're a very, very large island.
Oi. Africa is bigger. I insist.
Africa is bigger. Africa's bigger. We're the largest island, I think, smallest continent.
Yes, our largest. Sorry, that was horrible of me, but
no, you're absolutely right. I want to be correct on that. So you're right, largest island, smallest continent. So, we're very, very protective of that. We've been able to keep out foot and mouth disease and some really seriously horrible things. So we are very militant. I mean, just ask Johnny Depp and Amber Heard about how
yes. Well, hey, you know what? When it came to their pups and how I feel about mine, I would say I'm on their side.
Yeah, and Julie's right. Julie's right. We do have flora and fauna that are so susceptible to disease. I mean, the decimation that has happened across the populations of our Tasmanian devils, that was an imported disease, and we're very, very, very militant at keeping this out. So look, I'm not. I guess when you live in that sort of thing, you make do. You make your way around these sorts of things, and you understand why we are protective. And look, I don't necessarily disagree with it, but it does certainly hamper, opportunities to be able to trade in those areas. But Australia is a big place. There's lots of plants for everybody, and I'm absolutely certain that in those quarantine states they have fabulous nurseries. And as I said, we can import flasks, so
Yeah, yeah.
flasks are a different sort of
Well,
thing.
yeah, again, it's like one thing is if you can't do it within yourself, the market will have to provide for those that want it. So, like you said, you have great nurseries and things like that. I was surprised to read somebody from, I'm not entirely sure, and I may be corrected if somebody watches the replay on this live, that it was difficult to come across CalMag, and that is why where I referred that lady to Julie's channel, so that because she had bought CalMag and had sent me an image of it. Is that hard to find as such?
I don't find it hard to find, but I do go to a lot of the societies. So, I'm linked with my local orchid society. And if you go to their shows, there's CalMag available.
Okay.
You won't find it typically a lot of the places at what we would call Bunnings. Bunnings
Bunnings.
is probably our biggest retailer for plant supplies and things like that that's across the country. But if you jump online, you can very, very much find it.
You
I
can,
think
okay.
Michael
Yeah.
asked a question. So you can
Go ahead.
import tissue culture flasks of rare plants other than orchids. We can import orchids. So anything that's tissue culture, we can import. So that's generally how I get my stock. But yeah, and that includes orchids.
My
So,
goodness. I think
but
that's
yes,
fantastic. So
Cal-
what time
CalMag
is it? Go
CalMag
ahead.
is available over there. So right now it's 10:50 a.m. On Sunday.
That's amazing. And it's a beautiful sunny day, as I can see. And it's probably nice and toasty outside as well, right?
I wish it was a little bit more toasty, to be honest with you. It's
Okay.
been a weird season. We were supposed to have our Sarcochilis show, which is a beautiful orchid. I have several of them, but none of them are flowering. So our Sarcochilis show was a little bit of a Sarcochilis flop. A lot of the Sarcochilis, one of my orchid people in the society, he has 800 Sarcochilis and 3 were flowering. So this time last year, 200 were flowering. So it's been
Oh
a
my word.
very, very, very weird season
Well,
for
that sounds annoying because I'm kind of looking forward to March, and I don't want a repeat of what happened earlier this year, to be honest with you. So anyway, he'll probably have a great soccer Kyla's show in about 4 weeks, maybe.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Mine are not showing any signs of flowering at all.
No spikes,
Um,
nothing.
but yeah, it's very weird. It's very, very weird. We've had very, very humid, almost Florida-like conditions and tropical conditions here in Melbourne. We've had floods across the country. We've had there's water everywhere, and that's pretty unusual for this time of year.
Wow. Oh, wow. CalMag from a weed shop. Yes, most of the orchid growers here in Spain do go, and that's where I got my TDS meter and my pH meter, Anna. I had because I wanted to feel these things before I buy something off the net. I'm sort of tactile. I need to touch things, figure out if they work, or and talk to somebody, hold somebody responsible if it doesn't work, that kind of thing. So yeah, it was only the weed shop. Same with the second batch of leca that I got, but that was so pumped full of paraffin, I couldn't use it for the orchids. I did for a stint, and it was
Oh,
disgusting.
okay.
It was terrible. Yeah, it reeked. It made the kitchen smell of diesel. It was that bad. It was just, yeah.
Oh,
I
yes,
know, and
because
my
everyone wants that petrochemical smell going through their kitchen and their plants,
exactly.
don't they?
And the more water I threw at it, the worse it got, and it dropped my pH to 4.2 from 8. And I was like, oh my goodness. So I was pHing until I found the leca I'm using now. So yeah, everything came out of the weed shop in the early days. Nothing wrong with that, but I don't know the laws here in Spain about weed, but we've got weed shops, so it must be pretty liberal. We're not like California, though.
No, well, we're yet to catch up in terms of that sort of stuff. We don't really. We've got some laws around medical cannabis, but it's very, very hard to access, and having to spend time unwinding a lot of back of the legislation that says thou not smoke. So to be able to allow some of this very good, very legitimate uses of things like that of medicinal plants and things like that to be able to be used.
Yeah. Michael was mentioning that he is unseasonably warm in South Florida. These temperatures are ones I'm gagging for at the moment. These are the temperatures I used to have in Kenya and at the coast, because it's summer there now. And it's
Right.
just been,
I would love it if it was 32 or 90 degrees Fahrenheit. I would be loving it. And when I was growing up, that's pretty much what I would be expecting. But yeah, we've had there's a South Sea on the western side of the country over where Julie is. There is a South Indian dipole. And that's been really, really active and active late into the season. There's also been our third La Nina
La
coming
Nina.
through. Yeah.
I feel spoken to. I wreak havoc
La
wherever I
Nina.
go. That's right.
Viva La Nina.
That's right.
But yeah, so that also affects our climate. And even though, we're all the way down at the bottom of Australia, we are certainly affected by it as well. So it's been unseasonably cool for November or for October and into November. I don't know whether that's going to mean that come Christmas, we're just going to go straight to 40 degrees.
Sorry for the barking. Sorry for the barking. I apologize. Yeah, well, I can only hope. I hope that you get the temperatures that you would like to have, because, that's kind of what we wait for throughout the colder months, right? And
yeah, I go through every winter. I sit and freeze and just go. Just give me the warm weather. Give me the warm
right,
weather.
right.
Can I have
And tell me. So, how's your parsley patch? How are your new Masdevallias?
okay. Yeah. So for those that don't know, there's a little bit of a backstory to that particular one. When I first got some Masdevallias, which was only about 6 months ago, I decided to get a couple of Masdevallias. I knew that they were cold climate, and that they also needed humidity. And the most humid area of my garden at that point was the parsley patch. So I buried them in the parsley patch. And Nina found that an absolute hoot. So she made me put a little video up about the Masdevallia in the parsley patch. But they're doing well. They're now migrated up to the other end of the east side. They're no longer in the parsley patch. They're now under a tree, because the parsley patch is now getting some sun. Too much sun for the Masdevallias. So now they're under a tree with my very large Monstera deliciosa plants that are out there, getting some beautiful shade.
That's awesome. That is
So
awesome.
I have slugs. So I'm after this, I'm headed out not only to do some things that I need to do around town, but also to get some slug pellets, because they are really. I've got holes in my flowers and silver trails. So
Oh, yeah.
I find that completely unacceptable.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, no. That's what happens with the cooler temps. These guys seem to perpetuate themselves, and you just can't, they'll be out and about. Yeah. But well, I've found here our snail pellets, they just don't work. They, the best thing that works for me is to pick them up and throw them over the hedge. Give them to the
I
neighbors.
generally will do that, but unfortunately, this is happening overnight.
Yes,
So
that's true.
there is
Beer.
I'm waking up to find little silver trails and my flowers having holes
Yeah,
holes in them. But,
it's Orchid uses beer. He puts out little
yeah,
plates of beer. Let them have a party, and
they're clearly enjoying themselves. But yes, if
yeah,
I find snails and things like that, I normally throw them over into my neighbour's yard, because that's the right thing to do.
Yeah, isn't it? It's somebody having a Barbie outside.
I'm
How about
sure
a bit
they're
of
doing the same to me.
escargot?
I'm sure they're doing the same to me. But I wanted to thank you so much for having me on your channel,
Oh, it was
and,
a pleasure. I'm so glad I checked my emails before going on because I was like, should I, shouldn't I? I don't know. I had some minutes to spare and I thought, oh my goodness, that's why it was just an abrupt, here's the link, chuck it at you type thing. See
that's
if it
fine. I
works.
was very happy to come in and say hello to everybody.
That's good. It's wonderful to have you. And thank you so, so much for volunteering to come on up because, I'm trying to get you guys involved. I think you all have so much to contribute to, and I find that India and Australia have sort of the short end of the stick when it comes to time zones, and that just I find that
That's okay. We're used to getting up early and staying up late for the best stuff that comes out of Europe and the US.
yeah,
That's all right.
it must be nice with the
Sleep.
World Cup for you
Who
now.
needs sleep? Sleep is for daytime.
That's right. That's right. That's what I would like to do. It's either I want to be a hedgehog and an owl. That would work for me. Absolutely.
Interesting combination of animals that you decided to align yourself with it.
Yes. I get to hibernate, and then when it's nice, I get to sleep during the day. Right. Well, hey, you know what? It was wonderful. I think that's amazing. And in future reference, we know that this works. You're always welcome to come up. And if there's anything that you want to show you, we can do a walkabout and you can, show
Beautiful.
us around and stuff like that.
Maybe next time I can walk you around my orchid collection. I'll put you on my my portable camera, and we'll go for a walk.
Exactly. Something like that. That would be amazing. Rare Roots of Joy. Orchid Ninja Sharon Sun in the
Thank
house.
you so much, everyone.
Thank you. Take care. Have a beautiful day. Hey,
You too,
take
and
care.
don't forget, stay safe.
Stay safe. That's right. On one condition. Bye. I think we're alone now. Well, not quite. Hey, everybody. That was so nice to have a little bit of a visit. That was awesome. I appreciate it. And I hope that you enjoyed hearing a little bit from the land down under, part and parcel of what we do here. So we had our little intro video. Did we or didn't we? Yes, we did, didn't we? So let's go. Let me find Google Earth and let me go to the high school where I was given a handbook, so to speak, and it was a little booklet that we got as new students with all the rules of the school in it. And keep in mind, this was a missionary school from the African Inland Mission. And yes, I can say it out loud now. I broke every single rule in the book. I'm not saying that that is what everybody should be doing. That is not my recommendation because you could get caught, but I didn't get caught. So that is my claim to fame. I did not get caught. Now, we have ourselves, of course, Kenya right in front of us. And we can see that I've actually geared up this live stream to such a degree. I've dressed it up. We've got the Kenyan shield that is in the Kenyan flag. My mouse is also a lot brighter. It's got the Kenyan flag colors of the red and green. It's just pending the black, but I didn't have the option for 3 colors. So we are dressed for the occasion tonight. And on top of that, you can see that my icon has the Kenyan flag in a heart. I mean business tonight. Now we're going to take away this ticker down below, and just in case I zoom in somewhere a little bit too fast, then we get a little bit lost with what I'm trying to show you. And I'm going to try and keep an eye on the chat as well. And if I can't do that because my chameleon skills are a little bit lacking tonight, Hakuna Matata means no worries. For the rest of your days, it means no worries. You know, Pumbaa and Timon from The Lion King. Lots of Swahili words in that movie. So, Kenya, and here's where I was born, in Mombasa. Okay, so we've had a little bit of an excursion there in one of my videos. But what I want to do is zoom into, we're going to start with Nairobi. So down here is where I was born, and we're going all the way up pretty much to here. Okay, I used to either go by train and then I would take the school bus and get to my school. This was a boarding school, but it's a long way. Nairobi from Mombasa is about 800 kilometers. And let me see, because the pictures I showed in the video in advance were sort of like little visual stimulus, because Nairobi, we saw the city. That was the city according to my time. Of course, a lot has changed. It's much more modernized. And then we saw the lions there on some kind of a signage post. That is the Nairobi National Park. That is already on the outskirts of Nairobi. So you can see the city skyline in the background. And I will go back to those images eventually if we want to have a little bit of a recap, or I can show our little video once more, and then maybe everything will become clear. Now, as much as I like Nairobi, we are going to go up to, let me make sure I don't get distracted with what I'm looking at, because all these names here, yes, here is the Nairobi National Park. And this is when I mentioned about my trip on the train to Nairobi. You would wake up, the air would be much, much cooler. And this is what the train would travel through this national park. And you'd start seeing gazelles and antelopes and giraffes and all that fun stuff. So I just want to make sure that I stay focused with where I'm going, because like I said, all these names that are coming at me are just a stimulus of the highest order. And I'm trying to stay focused. And I'm gonna, if I can do this without actually wasting your time and find it relatively quickly, because on my first attempt, I went straight to Kijabi because that's what I'm looking for. And if I can't do it straight away, then what we are going to do is put it into the search bar, because I can see my brain is going tilt here. I have so much that I could be telling you about all the names that we're seeing today, but we are going to go to Kijabi, up there. Okay. And there we could already see, let me zoom out, and you can see how far away that is from Nairobi. Okay, so Kijabi is up here, and that is Nairobi. And we don't have such professional super duper roads. We had an upper road to get to Kijabi, that's where my school is, and we had a lower road, the escarpment road that I showed you with the trucks on the hillside there. And usually we went on the escarpment road. For some reason it was a little bit quicker, especially when it was raining a lot. We would not take the upper road, because whilst the upper road was all nice and tarmacked, and you can see that this is the upper road right here, nicely tarmacked, even though it looks green on the image, we would have to deviate and get down off the upper road and then go down a very, very steep red mud road into Kijabi itself. And when it is raining, that red mud that's like a clay, it becomes highly, highly dangerous. So we would take the road from Nairobi and we would fork off right here and go along the escarpment. This is the road that is like on a ridge. To the top, there's a steep embankment where the upper road is. On the bottom here, there's a steep drop going down all the way to the Great Rift Valley, which is all of this to our left. So I'm going to keep an eye on Kijabi. And here we've got that dormant volcano I told you about. That was one time, you know, we all went there for a picnic and we went up that mountain and then we trekked around the volcano, the caldera, the ridge there. So this was my view from my dorm to Mount Longonot, one of the images that we saw as well. Kijabi Mission Hospital was also all part of the missionary organization, the African Inland Mission. And this whole compound, I would say, maybe I should call it campus, is everything to do with the mission. So we have the American high school right here, Rift Valley Academy. That is my dive. We also had a Kijabi girls high school down to the right here. And we used to meet up with these girls for one Sunday per month at their church, where we would be trekking from our school all the way across the lower field. This is the upper field right here. This one is lower, so this is elevation wise, we're going down, and then this would be the church right here. Now, whoops, sorry about that, because Kijabi, the school and the church would only do their services in Kikuyu. Nobody understood a word. Let me just clear my throat one moment. I'm sorry. Nobody would understand a word of Kikuyu, and their services were 3 hours long. More often than not, a few of us would skip that Sunday and we would head off. Please don't do this to me, behave. We would head off from the upper field into this road back here, down through the forest to a river where there were caves, and we would hang out down there, let the time pass by, and then we would trek around all the way down around this area, eventually come up and somewhat sneakily join people coming out of the church. It was always very, very exciting, and it was also very, very naughty. No, Clarence, no cross-eyed lion. Nope, nope. We did have the Daktari show in Kenya. Yes, we did. I didn't meet those people, but I did meet Meryl Streep and Robert Redford because of the Out of Africa movie. And I'll show you where they filmed the last scene with the lion looking out over the ridge, because they did come to our dining hall at one point in between filming. There was a whole crew in Kijabi for about a day or two. But it's not like they stayed with us. It was just that they were filming to get that vista over onto Mount Longonot and through the Great Rift Valley. So yeah, I had a lot of girlfriends here, even though we didn't understand the language, but we hung out a lot. Here's a rail track right up here where we also had a lot of shenanigans. And the fun thing about being down here in this whole area, the tree canopies were tall and the vines were so embedded that we had like hammocks up there. So we would swim in the creek on those skip Sundays and then sunbathe in natural hammocks in this area right here. Fantastic. Now, I can see that this school has had major upgrades, even though the rugby pitch is temporarily closed. Yeah, we played rugby. We didn't play American football because this is an English colony, Kenya, and everything was rugby. So all the schools around Kenya with whom we used to compete played rugby. American football was not part of the curriculum. Soccer was the thing, and rugby. And we were the Buffaloes. Go, go, the Buffaloes, the mighty, mighty Buffaloes. So yeah, I used to be a cheerleader. Oh boy. And it was all very, I must say, it was great fun. And varsity always played up here, and junior varsity was always down here. And then this embankment here are natural bleachers. So it's not like there were bleachers built, but it was a steep decline, and the spectators would sit there. And I had my senior photo taken here on this field with Longonot, that is that volcano, the dormant one in the background, and in my cheerleading outfit with a soccer ball, because at the time, my boyfriend at the time was, in varsity soccer. So when you come into the school, back in the day, we used to come up here, and I can see that this is still exactly the same way. We had another church here, and one of my friends lived down here. Her mom was a nurse at the hospital, and her father was a pastor at the Moffat Bible School. Very, very, very religious in their Bible studies here. But we had all denominations. We had everything from Pentecostal, from the Baptists, and me not knowing what all this was about, they needed people like me to come in to pay the school fees for the missionary kids who were subsidized. And depending on what mission you were in, you had a low school fee or you had a high school fee. And those of us who didn't pertain to any mission, we had to pay the full school fee. So let's just say, as a bracket, African Inland Mission, that is the school operated and run by the African Inland Mission. They paid 500 shillings. And myself, as a non-missionary kid, would pay up to 27,500 shillings. Now, conversion and all that, it all sounds very cheap, but I must say back in the day, pretty much out of pocket with 27,500 for school fees. And I didn't even get my diploma, but that is another story. Not because I flunked, but it's because my mom was irresponsible. So eventually I had managed to pay my diploma after I got to Germany, and they sent it to me. And they sent me something typed out as opposed to the gold embossed thing that all my colleagues had around me, which was super disappointing because I wasn't told I wasn't going to receive my diploma that day. So I went to graduation, did the whole shebang, tassel to the other side, blah, blah, blah. When I sat down and also wanted to look at mine, there was just a little typeface in the sleeve to say, please see Mr. Entwistle, who was our school headmaster. I don't know how they call it, but yeah. And I quickly shut my folder and I thought, great. And everybody else was looking at the calligraphy, gold embossed on it. It was a horrible, horrible day for me. It was such a horrible day. I was also on my own. I don't even have a picture of myself in my graduation kit. I knew that was going to happen, so I put it up on a clothes hanger, tipped the hat forward up against the bed of my cleared out dorm room, took a picture of that. I don't know where that picture is, but it's like a ghost is standing in an empty room. And I thought, well, that's my graduation outfit. So the images are in my head pretty much. And we were in burgundy. Still love the color to the day. I have my tassel and hat somewhere upstairs. So yeah, anyway, so we come up here and then this whole campus is surrounded by dorms. And there was also Tichiswat. Tichiswat is right up here. That's where everybody was up until 7th grade, and all 8th grade is down here. So the little guys were up here. And all the teachers and faculty and staff, all these homes belonged to them. And they were all from the United States or Canada, but mainly United States. And it always astounded me that they would come, they would have these huge, huge containers. They would bring everything from the United States, from peanut butter to toilet paper to kitchen paper to their own detergent and I don't know what. It boggled my mind that missionaries were so wealthy. And I came from a normal family and I only had one pair of jeans and I had to blow dry them after I washed them so that they would be dry in the morning. I would, all the parts, the pockets and things where things would take longer to dry, I had to use the hairdryer to get them to dry out. And, depending on the season, sometimes I would go out with wet jeans and they'd dry off eventually. Whereas all the missionary kids, all my friends and my buddies, they all had the best of the Nikes, the latest of the Nikes, the Converse, matching jeans to sweaters with the Oxford shirts. I was astounded. And I was thinking, and also I was a little bit offended because here I am, born and raised, and I'm coming in. What's wrong with Kenyan toilet paper? But I didn't have that sense of awareness at the time, but I was actually questioning the system back then. I mean, I fully integrated into it, but I never got baptized there. It was more peer pressure the closer you got to your senior year about, Nina, aren't you going to get baptized? I'm like, no, why? It seemed like, well, if you're in your senior year, before you graduate, you want to get baptized. And I couldn't understand the reasoning behind it. Besides, this was not like a cult, but when you look back, you kind of think, well, maybe there was a little bit of cultism because your doctrine was all based around their teachings. Now, it wasn't pumped into you per se a lot and all the time, but when we had like movie nights, we would be shown Revelation movies. And I was 14, 15. I've never seen, I mean, I'm not a pansy in those things. I like my horror movies, but dang, when somebody tells you afterwards that this is going to happen if you don't accept Jesus Christ into your heart, and you're seeing guillotines and balloons floating away and rivers turning, I'm telling you, shocking, shocking. And that happened up here. It was such a shocker. This was the cinema. But anyway, those are the things that, that's my background in schooling. Whereas I always said, if you're going to do good, you're going to do good because you want to do good and make people happy. Why am I being told that I have to do good because somebody else said so? I hope I'm not offending anybody, but I was so confused at that day and age because I came from a place that never talked about God and into a place, and it was like, wow, I mean, I appreciate the background now, and I appreciate the knowledge of this because it gives me a much bigger and broader perspective of how people are, and I respect that, because if you can follow along those guidelines and you can rely on that, I'm sure that during my grief process it would have helped me, but I can't do it just for the sake of, because a lot of things don't make sense in my head, and at that time it made no sense at all. I had a counselor. Ironically, his name was called Mr. Loveday. Loveday. He was great fun, absolutely great fun, great guy. He couldn't understand the trauma of my home because we discussed all that, and not because I was naughty, not because they caught me breaking any rules, but it's almost like they want to get into your mind so that they can understand you better and help you better. That is the concept and the thought process. He couldn't understand where I was coming from when I told him about my situation at home. So he was useless, but we had great chats, and I walked out like going, you didn't hear a thing I said, did you? It does. It does. When you think back and you want to be in, I'm going to nitpick the surrounding, the circumstances. It does. One of the rules, for example, if you had a boyfriend, you were not allowed to hold hands. We were not allowed to dance. I know that my Let's Get Physical cassette tape was confiscated from Olivia Newton-John. And boy, did I wisen up by my junior year to my senior year. I had a big poof in my room. I became a resident assistant because I was that responsible. So my dorm was down here. By the time I was a junior and a senior, this was Kidong. That's 11th and 12th graders down here. And it's a 3-floor dorm. And that place is where I had an entire floor of girls under my supervision, and I had my own room. Usually that's about 2 girls or 3, depending. And I had a big poof, and in it was everything and anything that you weren't allowed to have. I had shots of vodka in there. I had, and you know what? In Kenya, the shots back in the day were in little plastic bags, like you could take from a lollipop, and you have the perforated, and you just pull the lollipop apart. And those were the shots, and they were in plastic bags, so they fit into a poof nicely. And if you sat in it, there was no hard object around. And I started to be the stash keeper of everybody on my floor. And if they needed something, then they came and, their name was tagged to their item, and it was all in my poof. That poof was big. I tell you. But they would search our rooms while we would be at school. And I didn't know that until one day I came home and I thought, I don't leave my shoes like this. I came home. I don't leave my shoes like this. Well, wait a minute. Because I'm pedantic about my closet, I hang my shirts up like that. And it just gave me the hibby-jibbies to realize somebody had been through my stuff. Anyway, they never found the stash at all. The poof was even bequeathed. So I had keys to the outdoors. There's a fire staircase down here where, the resident assistant for the floor has the key to the fire escape back here. And everybody got a copy of the key because we had a soap mold made, and anybody that went to town on a Saturday with the school bus, they can figure out their own key. The only rule on my floor was don't get caught, because I'm just gonna feign ignorance. I don't know. I have no idea. It wasn't me. And my floor got awards and honors for cleanliness, tidiness, organized, you name it. We were the floor, I'm telling you. Definitely. A Midwest high school. I don't, maybe that's a conversation you're having. I'll be having a look at the chat after the live is done. But yeah, so Kedong was huge. But my first dorm, let's go a little bit closer. This is the music hall right here. And my first dorm was, if I'm not mistaken, right up here, which was called Ndege. Ndege was for the 8th graders or 9th graders. Meanwhile, Suwa dorm is down here, this one, right by the dining hall. That's my first ever dorm was there, and in 9th grade, I moved up to Ndege. Now, this is a hill. This is so steep that the elevation from here to here is maybe, I would say, 100 meters. Of course, winding paths. It's not like you're trekking up there. But we had some great experiences there, great dorm parents up there. And that's where I learned to make brownies, and we could use the kitchen, and then we had to pay our little shillings for all the ingredients we needed. Great parents up here. And while I was down here, the dorm parents, they had a pug, and he wasn't very popular with all of us. We were kind of horrible to him. I mean, we didn't treat him badly, but it was like if he started walking up the floor, he was immediately shooed out. I mean, I'm a fan of a pug now after I saw Men in Black, but back then I thought, is this really? Because I grew up with wiener dogs. So that was, not my thing. Anyway, so that would be Ndege up here. And then the infirmary, let me make sure I find it. The infirmary, I believe, was this building right here. So in order to skip school, for example, we had to, especially in 8th grade, when I met up with another girl, her name was Lena. Yeah, we just had a letter in between us. Lena and Nina. Lena was the daughter of the governor of Kisumu, which is located in Lake Victoria. And I used to go to Lena's house a lot. She would be picked up by limousine, and we'd head off to Kisumu, and then we'd be, taken care of as the government's daughter and her friend, especially for half term. But Lena and I, we had a thing, some classes we just didn't want to participate in, so we would drink tea. We would drink tea, super hot tea, and make sure that our throats were scalded, because getting to the infirmary before school were to start with our throats still piping hot so that we could simulate a fever temperature was difficult because the incline was so steep. I think that we were a little bit silly because the infirmary would let me stay, but Lena had to go to school. Or vice versa. I think they pretty much dialed in on what we were up to. So they would not ever let us both just be in the infirmary for the day. But yeah, and then the science building was also right next door, right here. Hated that place. Chemistry was not my jam. We could do our cheat sheets. I have never written so tiny in my life ever again, because my index card was covered with everything I thought I needed to know for my chemistry exams. And I left chemistry until my senior year, hoping that my brain would be able to comprehend what I'm looking at. Meanwhile, I'm down here in Kedong with a Taiwanese girl, bright as the brightest bulb you can imagine, super smart. Her parents were in Ethiopia. She's now married to a DA in California. And I'm telling you, here's Dum Dum sitting next to her, and she's trying to help me out. I look at her and I say, I don't know. I'm seeing what you're telling me, but I can't register it. So I didn't understand back in the day that I had dyslexia. And that, with chemistry, it just, it didn't gel. Give me something logical like physics, and I excelled in calculus, and I would just, breeze through. Meanwhile, my British education prior to coming to RVA, Rift Valley Academy, was way advanced compared to what I came to when I was in 8th grade. I was 13 when I came to this school. And I was so far ahead of my classmates. I was getting straight A's until I got to my junior year. And people were calling me brains. Whereas with the British school system, I was struggling. And that is the reason I thought, well, if this is working for me, that I'm actually doing this again, and now my brain has matured and can comprehend what I'm seeing and what I'm doing, I'm going to leave chemistry until my senior year. I didn't need the credit. It was more the challenge. I'm going to do this. I'm not going to chicken out. I could have had my first 2 hours of study hall and only get to my first class by 11 a.m. I could have done that. I had plenty of credits. But, you know, it was this thing. I'm going to do chemistry. I'm going to do it. Oh, I hated it. I got physically ill prior to an exam every single time. And after an exam, I was fine. And I just barely made it through. Trust me, I was paying attention. But I'm telling you, Sabrina, who was trying to help me when we had our upper floor of Kedong, it was her and I. And we only had 11 rooms up there because economics was down the hall and home economics. And that is where I came after my Kilimanjaro trek. Up here was when I had a shower and I just dropped my entire skin off my face and all the red sand came pouring off. But that was this place. Now, what I want to do is, well, we still haven't even gotten to the main building yet. I'm sorry. I hope this is of interest. But again, like I said, city bus, hop on and hop off. So this was the chapel every day for 15 minutes after the first 2 classes. You see, my senior year could have been study hall, chapel. And at chapel, after chapel, we would get chai. I could have just swum through my senior year. But anyway, chemistry, I had to do it. I at least needed that thing. Otherwise, I would have never kind of forgiven myself. But, whoops, sorry, guys. Let's get back in there. But yeah, Sharon-san, teachers, it's possible. It is possible. Yes, Mr. Dixon, I'm not sure, maybe you were a rubbish teacher. Speaking of Mr. Dixon, he lived very close to the chemistry building. He was so attached to it. And he was up here. And then for Sunday school, I went to this home right down here, which was Mr. Ray. That was my senior year in Sunday school. And he was awesome because in Sunday school, we went through all the other religious beliefs and practices and traditions of the world. And I enjoyed that Sunday school a lot. Anyway, so we're up here. You can see where the girls' dorms are right up here. Oh, by the way, I had fire duty. Hot water was only available if somebody kept the fire going. Seeing as I had the key to the outdoors as resident assistant, that was my job. So I was in charge of making sure that the girls on our floor had hot water. And I would be in a lot of hot water if I let that fire go out. Meanwhile, a lot of contraband was burnt in that furnace as well. So win-win. So anyway, so here are the girls collected right here. And then we have, more dorms up here, whereas Ndege was right up here. There is Ndege. And all them boys were down here. What separated us was a massive open field, no or very little vegetation. Now I can see that the tennis courts are marked. That's nice. Those were our volleyball fields at the time, and they were just rustic concrete. It was horrible. We have I didn't have knee pads because I wasn't a fancy missionary at the time, but yeah, tennis courts, nicely marked out. Well done, RVA. Anyway, all this was open. Now, what you see here, what I'm seeing temporarily closed. Maybe the school is closed. No, they don't get out at this time of the year. But anyway, this building wasn't there when it wasn't finished when I was still there. So you can see what they were trying to do with keeping an eye on any kind of movement about anybody wandering off in this direction or coming back in this direction. And the elevation here is pretty steep again. So you have one, and then you have a step up, and then you have a step up, and so on and so forth. You couldn't see these buildings from over here. maybe our floor could just barely see the roof over there. But even if you're driving up and around this road, you can just sort of, peek over and see the roof of this building. That's how steep it was. But all the guys were over here. So how did I get around that? Well, I became the hairdresser. I had never cut hair in my life, but I thought, how hard can this be? Oh my goodness. So I got myself a fine tooth comb. I went at it, and because we had a dress code for the guys. Their hair was not to be longer than the collar and definitely not hang over the ears. So at the beginning of the school season, people would come up and rock their 80s hair look. The guys, having let their hair grow out during the vacation, and it was snip, snip time. So I said, yes, I can cut hair. Absolutely. Let's go. And boy, they believed me, and I went off. So I had free access to the boys' dorms. Meanwhile, not really should I go into the hallways beyond the sitting area, the open area, reception area of the lounge. But, every once in a while, the dorm parents started to trust us and turned aback. And I can tell you what fun that was. I mean, we didn't get up to any shenanigans. Oh, I had standards. Even though I broke rules, I had my standards. But there, a lot of hair cutting was done, including my African friends who don't like their hair being touched at all, because they always said an Mzungu is white, a white person. Mzungu doesn't know anything about African hair. And I said, watch me. And then I had two Ethiopian brothers, Enoch and Gideon, and they said, okay, fine, here I am. Have at it. And I did such a fabulous job. The only reason I knew what to do and how my hands should move is because of Lena, who was, with me since 8th grade. We were like the two there. I remember sneaking out of campus with Lena in the trunk of a car of two guys. We didn't even know who they were. Well, Lena knew them. I didn't. My parents would have, my mom, yeah, never mind. We'll just skip that part. But we made it in and out, no problem. But I tell you, with Lena, I got up to some serious shenanigans. Anyway, so because of I was watching how Lena combed her hair, what her hand movement was, how she styled it and everything. I went at Gideon and Enoch's hair like a pro, like I had done it all my life. Not once did I even doubt myself, and they were impressed. I don't know if I ever admitted that to them, that I didn't have a clue that day. Anyway, so as we come around here to this road, this is where I played tennis. And yes, this court was completed and finished the way it is here. These guys weren't. Not even this one. This was our main basketball court. And here are the proper bleachers and stuff. And we'll get to see this building just now. But this was the tennis court I used to play, and I rocked the tennis racket. I was a little devil, but I had a halo. One of the horns had a halo dangling from it, because I never meant any harm. But you're going to have to give me a reason why your rules are the way they are. And if you cannot give me a plausible reason, I'm sorry, it makes no sense. What, I can't hold my boyfriend's hand? I mean, one time I had my hand in his back pocket. Yeah! Out of nowhere, somebody came up and said, excuse me. And it was like, oh, it's like I had touched fire. Anyway, and it made no sense to me, and those are the rules that I broke. Sneaking out in the trunk of cars, yes. Yes, Michael. And if I think back, dang. Yeah, anyway, so when we come around here, we come to Kiambogo. Kiambogo is the Kikuyu name for buffalo. And I'm going to stop right here with this screen, and I'm going to try and find the images that I had saved for you when it came to showing you at least some buildings from the front. Now, you're going to see some very old well, one very old picture and some newer pictures, because of course, I got a source and I thought, I'm going to use these pictures. End of story. Seeing as my albums, they're elsewhere. Don't know where. Let me see if I can do this properly without wasting your time. And if you're still here, thank you so very, very much. I appreciate it. Okay, so we saw that windy road. That windy road would come up to this building here, which is called Kiambogo. And Kiambogo being Buffalo, Buffalo was our mascot. We were the Buffs. And you can see those fancy cars, absolutely gorgeous. And I must say that the whole building is dated back to the Mau Mau days. So it was, what was his name? Oh, I feel terrible. It was a president who laid the cornerstone. Starts with an F. Somebody's going to kill me now in the chat. I should know this. And Buffalo is an Ancelia. That is absolutely right. I had to get her. That's the one. And what was the president's name? Fitzgerald? Is that a president's name? Oh my goodness, this is terrible. Anyway, he laid the cornerstone of our building. And in the early days, when this school, this missionary school started, this was the school, including dorms, and then you could see the expanse of the campus, how it's developed since then. So the whole building at the time, and I'm just going to double check, it might have had a little bit of a refurb now and then, but at the time, the front part and the back part are exactly the same. And on top of that, there are tunnels underneath the building when the entire school, including the faculty, would hide from the Mau Mau, because the Mau Mau were the rebel tribe. Let's just say they were, if I may use the words, terrorist of the day, trying to fight for independence. At the time, the British would say they were the terrorists, whereas these were just freedom fighters. But they would slaughter everybody in sight that had white skin. Missionaries were a target back then. It was terrible. So the whole building underneath is a network of tunnels. If you think the Rock of Gibraltar back in the day, that is the same thing here, where people would hide and then they wouldn't find anything. Eventually, if the Mau Mau had attacked, they would leave. They would have left everything ransacked and stolen all the goods and stuff, but at least the people were still alive. But yeah, this is Kiambogo. And this is the main porch right here. And here's our bulletin board where we signed up to go on the bus to Nairobi every Saturday. And seniors had priority. And then if you were a junior, then, the list, there was only so much space on the bus and you had to hustle to get your name on there. Never mind if you were a freshman, it was pretty much impossible unless your parents or somebody picked you up. Then you needed authorization to leave campus. It was all very, very strict and controlled, which to my understanding is a good thing. We got around it. And then you see the flagpole. That flagpole was the focal point of our chapel every Friday. We would gather around. The entire high school, including Tichi Swat, would come down because they were up a little bit higher. They would come down and we would gather around that flagpole, and then we would sing the national anthem. The Kenyan flag would be hoisted. We would do that in English and we would do that in Swahili. And then we would go off to the dining hall and have some chai. And in the background, you can see Kidong. That was my dorm. Just above the red car, you can see that building peeking through, and you can see the elevation difference, and that is the top floor, which was the third floor. So basically, you can tell how the different elevations were there. Going up here was Bible. My Bible class was up here. French was in the background, and a massive library now spans the back end of the lower level of the building, and in that library is still, to my understanding, an octagon model, 1-to-1 scale of a house that I built in shop for my credit for my architecture class. And everybody else was doing bungalows, and Nina thought it was a great idea to design and make it feasible to build an octagon house. Mr. Dickens was my Mr. Dickens was my architecture teacher. I was the only girl in there. No girl had ever been to architecture. It was a man's world, and I thought, why? Anyway, I went to architecture. I loved architecture, and I wanted to become an architect, but I wasn't qualified enough for architecture school when I got to Germany, despite me thinking I've got this nailed. And I still remember my degrees was a 132-degree angle in order to get all my pieces together over 2 floors. If I could ever build this house, I don't have my floor plans anymore, but it's all in my head. I could rebuild it in my mind, draw it, and say, I need a cliff's edge. And I always thought Portugal was a nice place, even though I'd never been to Portugal at the time. But when I went to Portugal to play golf one time, I saw the cliffs and I saw my octagon and I said, this is where this house belongs. Anywho, so that is Kiambogo. I'm going to show you a little bit more of an updated picture that moves it back a little bit to where we can see a building that is now there, but it wasn't at the time. And that was supposed to be, to my understanding, the swimming pool, and it turned out to become the basketball court. And it was not roofed in, it was just the basketball court, somewhat raw. And there you can see the elevation as well, how radical the terrain is. The upper field starts right here. This is where we used to practice cheerleading, right here. And then this is the roof of this massive building that has bleachers and everything inside of it. And it turns out to be a basketball court. As a swimmer, I was going to be thrilled to have the pool, but the progress was so slow, I never even saw it completed. I believe this wall was partially done when I left. That's it. How long it took to get a roof on, I don't know. I remember sitting up under this tree. There was a bench when I came the first time as a senior. And I sat with Lena and 2 other girls, and we looked at each other and we said, we're seniors now. And I wonder if anybody else has ever had that moment that they suddenly snap out of it and realize that we are now the big guys. And the Tichiswat, the 7th and 8th graders, which we were, because the 4 of us sitting on that bench had been together since 8th grade. And Lena had been in the school since Tichiswat, so much, much longer than I was. And we just looked at each other and said, we're the seniors now. And we just burst into fits of giggles. It was awesome. It was really awesome. The opportunities there were endless in our senior year. You know, having somehow figured the system out, it was easy to become complacent. We still had a few more months to go without getting caught. But yeah, so this is here, the start of the upper field. And now I'm going to show you it's not the ground floor of Kidong, but we're going to see the side of the Kiambogo building that will give you a better idea of how long that building actually is and the porch around it. So you can see the building here to the right. This is still Kiambogo. And here we had math class and whatever. And just out of the view back here, that's where the library starts. And this is just a typical wraparound porch all the way to the front, the parking lot being what we saw in the corner over there. And now you can see that huge centered basketball, whatever they play there. And we had, oh yes, I remember, the Buffs logo actually went in. It did. The circle of the basketball court became the Buffs logo while I was still there. We were starting to look like a proper school. Meanwhile, we were super at sports. We excelled in the sports. It was awesome. And then here are our fantastic bleachers. This is what we had. And this was the court, the first court, and then they built that one. But yeah, graduation pictures were taken here as well. And I had my English lessons, English class up here. And then my boyfriend would come down the stairs. I would be waiting for the second English class right here for him to come down the stairs. And my heart would start to flutter even when I saw his sneakers. That all happened. There were some secret hiding places in the porch that we took advantage of. And sometimes staff would come and check on us just to make sure we weren't doing anything hanky-panky wise, which of course we weren't, but we were careful. Let's put it that way. I'm going to take you now to the upper field because that is an amazing view, the view that I've been talking about. If anybody is getting bored, I will find out in the comments eventually. I really, really hope not. But you can see how difficult this would be to put into a video, in my opinion. I don't know, but I find this so much easier. Okay, so this is the upper field, and you can see how steep the slope is right here. Those are the natural bleachers. The road that we drove up and around is down, all the way down there. Okay, so that kind of shows you how we can hardly see the roof line right there of the dorms that I mentioned. But back here in the background, that is the dormant volcano. That is Longonot. Fantastic. And we used to have not snow days, but buffalo days. So when there was a drought in the valley, the buffalo would come up because we were in the clouds to some degree on occasions, and our fields and our vegetation was always green. And from Kedong, I could see the dorm, I could see all the way through to the upper field. And if we saw buffalo, we were excused from class. Wasn't that awesome? That is amazing. Buffaloes would come to the buffs. Absolutely fantastic. Right. I have another picture I would like to show you, just to show you the logo. I thought it looked really good back in the day. Now I'm thinking this poor buffalo has some issues, maybe bowel issues. I don't know. Yes. Now, this buffalo is usually decked out in black with a red background and white. So the relief, the whole image has a little bit more of a brighter shine. He looks a little bit more proud. This one, he looks a little bit like, probably good for the printing paper, but not so good as an image. So the representation isn't quite right. But we were proud of ourselves as buffaloes. Now, one thing I wanted to show you as well, not you. Let me make sure that I don't click the wrong picture. But one thing I wanted to show you was where they shot the final scene of Out of Africa, which is when we came up the road. If you remember, we came up the road and I showed you where all the hospital and all that infrastructure was. And this is lower than the hospital area. Okay, now it's pretty much, well, we've got farmland, we've got corn growing, and it's a little bit more developed, but this is below the whole hospital area that we just had a look at. And in my day, there weren't it wasn't all laid out like this. It was sort of grassland, a little bit of a bundu kind of grassland. And the scene was shot round about here, where they sat down, or the lion or whatever, the end of Out of Africa, and they looked out over the Great Rift Valley. I don't think they looked out to Longonot, but if you were to look left, you are going across a plain, a savanna kind of thing, because the drop is extensive, and then you're heading off to the other side of the Great Rift Valley, and you come up the next, the escarpment on the other side, and that is where the National Park of Masai Mara is, very, very famous for its wildebeest. The whole wildebeest migration thing happens on the other side of that escarpment, and that is Masai Mara, the most beautiful and, in my opinion, the most rich in wildlife. If you were to go to Kenya and you're thinking of safari, go to Nairobi, take a bush plane, because by now they'll take bush planes out to Kikurok. We did that when I went there back in the day with the father of my children. We took a bush plane out to Kikurok, and then we also did a little, honorary swoop around my high school. But yeah, Masai Mara is the place to be. Now, I want to also show you once again, if you don't mind, another picture, because this is something that I had to do a lot when I was at my school. And looking back now, it's like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? This is the lower road along the escarpment. And these lorries, if you were stuck behind one of these lorries, first of all, you were getting gassed by diesel. And if the lorry said, because you can see one of them says vehicle, but the word that is cut off on the other side, it said long vehicle. Just to tell you, hint, hint, do not even dare try to overtake. And the incline going down was fine because the lorries can go down with, you know, the gravity and all that. But coming the other way to meet the road that goes to Nairobi, oh my goodness. It was, Anyway, and you can see that we're driving on the opposite side of the road because, you know, British colony. So this is how I learned to drive on the other side. Talk about dyslexia when I got to Germany. My world was upside down. But yeah, a steep drop into pretty much nothingness on the other side, but absolutely fabulous. And then you can see that a little bit more clearer over here. Now, luckily, this road was tarmacked. Of course, once we got to the road that then led to the school, it was pretty easy to do that because it was pretty much uphill from the lower road up to the school as opposed to sliding downhill from the upper road down. But you can see in this image the road here on the left. And that is still a mild incline because we're right at the top. And would be the plateau that takes the road to Nairobi. And then you come down and it just gets worse and worse and worse the more the road progresses along the Rift Valley. But yeah, amazing. Now, another thing is that I wanted to show you, if you're still interested. I know. Oh, anyway, I wanted to show you this because I was talking about Longonot a lot. And that is the crater itself. There is a path you can hike up, and then you can hike all around the perimeter of that crater. It is very, very safe. It looks steeper than it actually is. And there is an opportunity also to be able to hike down into the crater, but you would need a warden that has a rifle of sorts with you. If you're just going to do it as a school trip on a weekend so that your students don't get bored and go and think of any kind of nonsense, points me, you keep your kids busy. You make sure that they're good and tired at night. So Longonot was a quick trip into the Great Rift Valley, hiking up and then around the crater. Now, going down, you would need a rifle, but I never went down into that crater. But I did see people taking the path down there, but they had a warden with them. Pretty cool. If I had been a little bit smarter, I probably would say I want to go down. I'm sure there's orchids in there somewhere. But no, it's an easy climb, this one. This one was not difficult. And if anybody watched my Orchids and Stories video, I came across the image about Kilimanjaro. I thought maybe I would just have a little visit to show you the highest bathroom potty break that I have ever been on in my life. And I was gushing about it in my Kilimanjaro video. And I came across this image that I thought I've got to show you because, yeah, I mean, just check out this view. How can you not? If you're afraid of heights, I don't know what to tell you. There's no other place to go. I need a sip of water, please. Excuse me. I shall let you ponder what your strategy would be for this bathroom break. So you would pretty much go down the stairs and, be kind of out of view. Now, I don't remember any homes being there in my day, so maybe this is more of an up-to-date picture than when I was there, but I don't remember any homes. I just saw green, green, green all the way into the horizon as far as the eye could see. Yes. So there you go. I thought I would follow up on that video and show you that one. Now, if we want to have a look at, let me just get all my pictures out of the way here and make sure that I don't make a big mess of my presentation. And as I take my time, okay, I showed you all of that, all of that, all of that. Okay, does anybody have any questions at all? I mean, you know, anybody? I've not really been paying that much attention to chat, and I really should have, I suppose. But I was trying to make sure I don't get into a muddle here with giving you my images. Let me just see. Let me see what. Let me see if there's any picture to big word. Yes, Michael, absolutely. I get it. I get it. There was something else I wanted to show you. Maybe I should go back to. Don't tell me I shut it down. Don't tell me. Did I shut my Google Earth down? We weren't done yet. Come on. I didn't. Good girl. Way to go. That's not the screen. That's not the screen. Sorry, guys. Here's my screen. Thank you. Okay. Because now that you've seen some of the pictures up close, I wanted to go back to Google Earth and show you what we can do with that. So you've seen up close pics. You get a pretty good idea about the layout, where all this was. And then we can start to zoom out. Okay. So now that we know where we're at, let's go out a little bit more. So we figured out we came along this way. Okay. And then this was the upper field right up here. This is the view. We're going to keep looking in this direction as we move out even further. We should soon be seeing the lower lands of that Longonot volcano. And there it is. So just to put
2 hours.
Sorry, my computer telling me what time it is. I'm not getting the hint. Anyway, so you see the perspective and the scale of things right now. This road, once you come off the escarpment road, which is all the way down here, it goes down and flattens out and is then in the Rift Valley. So this road right here will take you to Naivasha, Naikuru, and Lake Naivasha specifically, and that is where all the flamingos are. So that was a good trip. It was a great trip out, no problems there. Went fishing there a lot. So if we zoom out even further, now you can see how the Great Rift Valley just goes across and is all somewhat flat land. And then up here, it rises again. And then to the left, you get into the Masai Mara. And it is fabulous. So the closest place to go see the flamingos is Lake Naivasha. And the Great Rift Valley has all these lakes with the flamingos in them, dotted around with all the minerals, Nakuru being a very popular one for the sparse and for the, not sparse, but the massive flocks of flamingos. And it goes all the way up. There's more lakes all the way through to the top. Now, Nyali Lilipush, I remember saying, so when somebody asked me where you're from, and I said Nyali, and they thought I was from up here, but Nyali being in Mombasa. Anyway, don't get on a tangent here, woman. So you can see that this was quite the magical place, Kijabi. Now, this Aberdare mountain range was a beautiful, beautiful hiking place. And I bet you there's orchids galore in them. And I've never saw one because I wasn't paying attention about them at the time. But it's just impressive. You can see all these outcrops here. These are all dormant volcano and lava. And the valley is still splitting. It's still separating. It's in constant motion. Not that we have earthquakes or anything like that. But recently, maybe 10 or 5 years ago, there was a massive crack that has split roads and broken bridges, and people can't walk across it. So they are saying that if this keeps going, then part of Kenya will become sort of like an island kind of thing. Pretty cool. Hell's Gate National Park is a very, very favorite place to go and hang out. Hot springs. if you want to think Yellowstone, but in mini, that is Hell's Gate. The reason it's called Hell's Gate is because it stinks. It smells bad. And there's really nothing much there that other than, it's an outdoor spa. It's very beautiful. You get the fantastic rock formations. It's just that people used to call it hell because it was piping hot and it stunk of the sulfur because it's constantly bubbling up through the mud there. Fascinating place as well. So I can tell you that my happy place being on the coast was wonderful as long as I could be out of the home. But coming to Kijabi, it was like coming to paradise because we would take also motorbikes. We called them picky pickies, dirt bikes, and we'd take them onto the trailer, go down into the valley and start chasing the antelopes and the gazelles and whatever wildlife was down there. We'd take those very obnoxious, noisy, loud things and just ride them around like maniacs, kind of. So for the time being, oh, Mount Suswa, just one more thing. Mount Suswa as well is a dormant volcano, and there's a satellite station as well that can be seen. The only thing is now out of the top of my head, I'm not sure if I can zoom in on it without doing a massive search, but there's a whole satellite station at around Suswa, and it's called the Suswa something or other. And there's a scenic point of view, as you can see. I didn't go up Mount Suswa. Whoops, stop touching that mouse. I didn't go up Mount Suswa. I stuck with Longonot. It was greener, it was more beautiful. So there we go. My little Kenya journey taking you to where I was hunting around. Now, there we go, that's that. And if you, like I said, look where Kili is, all the way down here. So it looks like everything's pretty close, but you know, it's not. It's absolutely not that close. So when we went from Kili, we came from this area. Whoops, that's Naivasha. So we came from here all the way down Arusha and that to Moshi. But that was in another video. So I have questions. If you have questions, do you have questions? You used to raise African cichlids from that area. Cichlids, am I pronouncing that correctly? Hey, thank you. That's me. That's me. The Maasai? This is Maasai country at the Masai Mara. Let me show you. Masai Mara is named after the tribe. They're also down in Amboseli and around Kilimanjaro. Okay, so forget all the touristy trap thingies that they're showing you here, but this is everything Masai Mara right here. And this is where they mainly are. And then also down in Amboseli. And Amboseli is the national park that surrounds Kilimanjaro on the Kenyan side. All this is Maasai country. Beautiful people. Oh my goodness. Tall, lean, beautiful features of their faces. Astounding. Absolutely. There's so much pride. Maasai clothes, don't go there because Maasai don't wear clothes. They wear a tunic and that's it. And yes, that's it. If it's a bit windy, that's it. That's all they wear. Now, there's also Maasai up in Lake Turkana up here. This is the Jade Sea right here. I've been there as well. That was my senior trip. My junior year, I went to Kili. And my senior year, I went up to Lake Turkana. And the Maasai tribe is very prevalent up here as well. And boy, did I learn how to dance Maasai. And boy, were my shins killing me afterwards. These people can jump. They can jump, I am telling you. And then on top of that, they can actually sing. It's feet. It's a rhythm. Wow. I did that for some time and then I was in pain. Never again. I already had flat feet as a child. I was wearing like these little supports for my arches just so they don't flatten out further. My senior trip took me to Oh, can I just add this? My senior trip took me to Lake Turkana. Now, remember I'm at a missionary school, yes? We had to go through South Hor. And all of a sudden we're all childish. and, and boy, did we take advantage of that trip. When are we at South Hor? Where is South Hor? Are we at South Hor yet? Can we stay in South Hor? Can we have a drink with some? You know, and on and on and on and on. We couldn't be reprimanded because, you know, as you do. And that is where I bought semi-precious stones where you can find rubies and sapphires. Sorry if I'm mistaken, not rubies, but sapphires. But I found them, well, I bought the raw stone sapphires that you can find in this area. And people were selling them in little baggies. Fantastic. I may still have that little baggie somewhere, but I can't exactly say. So yeah, we went to South Hor. I have a picture actually of that camping trip because after our trip to Lake Turkana, we went, you just saw the name here, it's called Zamburu. That's another national park and they have hot springs there. And that was another way of taking a bath is jumping into the hot springs, which at the time, which now is not permitted. And the baboons were watching us being silly, throwing algae at ourselves. That was in this area right here. I know I have a picture of that. I wonder. Not of me in the springs, but I took the picture. Maybe I should put a post up on the community when I find it again. But Samburu right here with the hot springs, that was fantastic. And you know, the hilarity of us being idiots, because the hot springs, you couldn't touch your feet, but the sides of the springs, they all had this algae, very fine algae, and they were super warm, being volcanic, of course. And the more you started to use it and be an idiot about it and throw it at each other, the deeper we had to dive to get more of it. It was just dumb. Man, we shampooed our hair in those hot springs. Imagine that. By the time we were done, it was a bubble bath in a natural environment, in a natural setting. Ooh, verboten this day and age, for sure. You know, don't just jump into some kind of nature reserve. But back in the day, that's what you did. That's what we did. And then there was baboons watching us. And the hot springs, there's no vegetation around them. It's just, you know, they've been enclosed a little bit with stone. And by the time you got out, you made sure that you had your flip-flops close by, which didn't work because the dust and the sand was so fine that it just got into your shoes again. But here's another mountain we went up. This is a volcano, which is actually quite funny. This one was. And we climbed it. I believe it's this one. We climbed it, and all it is sand. So up was torture. Coming down was easy, and I got bum burn, if that makes any sense. Because, you know, in a bathing suit, climbing up a mountain, just sneakers on, you can imagine going down, being an idiot, not having anything underneath you, but sliding on hot sand. I was lucky I still had a bathing suit when I got up. It was so painful for many, many days, especially in that bouncy truck that we had driving us all over the place. That truck was not exactly the comfy zone. And we camped. This was the trip where every night we had to pitch a new tent, and it became a competition. And we had one cook with us for this trip, and he made the most perfect dinners. And he started with dessert. He would dig a hole every night and then he'd have the best upside down cake of any fruit that we had along. And he would put that all underneath. Then the charcoal would go on top, and he would cook the dinner on top of the charcoal while we were pitching tents. Incredible. I'm telling you, I had a pineapple upside down cake from him and a peach upside down cake because those were in cans. I'll never forget that flavor. So delicious. It has never been replicated ever in my lifetime. And to this day, I do love my upside down cakes, I tell you. But, I'm always going back to that experience out in the bush when he started to scrape the charcoal away and then up came the upside down cake. Just incredible. But that was on this place. And it was also in this trip, I got bitten by a scorpion. And here we are again, missionary school. And I didn't know what had hit me, but I guess somebody shouted scorpion. As the first time I ever heard that word. And Mr. Loveday, yes, my counselor here, he's back, to my horror as a senior, flipped me over on my back, grabbed my foot like some kind of Neanderthal, tore off my sneaker and my sock and started sucking my ankle. I'm like, oh, what are you doing? Meanwhile, by that time I was broken up with my boyfriend, but I was like, oh, this is the only way that he did the right thing in hindsight, but I didn't know what had hit me. I just felt a sharp pain. That little bugger went through my sneaker. Yeah, so I never lived that one down, didn't Mr. Loveday? Yeah, I tell you, he threw Nina on her back and sucked on her ankle. We won't fill in the detail as to why he did that. Oh, I could have actually made that a second live. But we went from the heat of down there to the cold of up here to visit a missionary little dwelling that had just started up. It was cold. And if you think the escarpment road was dangerous, getting up onto this here, the road was gravel. No, it wasn't the Catholic Church. Here we go, African Inland Church. We went to visit them. Oh my goodness. But now they have the deluxe location of down there. They were on a flippin' mountain. And our truck was the width of the road exactly. And who's to say what's going to happen if a car comes our way? I was freaking out. I was even leaning into, because I was, at the edge moving up the mountain. I was looking down at the ridge and the tires and the gravel. I'm like, oh my goodness, this is not going to go well. And I was trying to lean to the right more, hoping that the weight would disperse so that we wouldn't go over. This is not a good idea, but anyway, I live to tell the tale. Indeed, I do. So, I'm going to stop now. I'm going to stop now. I don't know. Let me know if you have any questions. Oh, and the crocodile. By the way, yes, it was in Lake Turkana. I swam with crocodiles, except I didn't know they were there. And somebody said, are you an idiot? Well, it wasn't just me. There were others. It was so hot. So hot. Come on. And there's a beautiful turquoise lake in the middle of the desert. Of course I'm going to swim. Come on. And then I was told that there could be crocs in that water. And I'm like, you are kidding me. And sure enough, I did see them then sunbathing a little further down. Oh, guess who very slowly retreated, like tiptoeing, some kind of cartoon character going backwards very, very slowly. Like an idiot, like I did in South Africa. I was in South Africa on the Wild Coast. Yay, beach. I'm off. And I just went from the hotel, from the steps down, and just walked straight into the water, into the surf, which was the biggest surf I'd ever experienced. I didn't pay attention because I was being back in South Africa, I was noticing the mangrove leaves, the vegetation around the beach, everything that Kenya beaches had. And I was just enjoying the vegetation. I didn't see the sign that said, swimming beach, turn right, go there. And there were people on that side of the beach. When I finally looked up, I was on the beach already. I saw a lot of people to the right of me, somewhat in the distance. I thought, they're all idiots. There's nobody here. I want to be alone. Boom. I go into this place. The sign actually said, shark. Danger of sharks. Please go to the beach where there's where they have netting. They have a certain netting and a barrier so that people can swim safely. Oh, I don't know. I think it was the strength of the surf on that day that didn't make me swim out further. And, you know, I was kind of done for the day anyway after a nice round of golf. And I can tell you, I was in the water long enough to really enjoy it, but I knew I couldn't swim out far enough. I would be too tired. That surge was so strong coming in, and there was a lot of breakage in between. But nobody came to say, whoa, 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 through a megaphone, nothing. So the idiot, you know, water, I'm there, in we go, who cares? Oh my goodness. Oh, when I think back, the realization of seeing that shark sign after the fact, I got goosebumps. I really, really did. And here's me, just, you know, wise guy. Why would I want to be with a crowd when the beach right in front of the hotel is perfectly fine and empty? My goodness, ever the tourist. I can't say that I'm, no, I'm not proud of myself. Absolutely not. Okay. So if you would like, after all of that, if you would like to see that video one more time, question, maybe that'll be like a little summary, because now maybe you know what you're looking for. I don't know. You tell me. Can I still find it? Do I still have it? Did I close it out? I can find it quickly. If you want to see it one more time and call it a wrap. Let me just click away here. Sorry, guys. I guess I closed that window out. As you do when you're jostling around like this. So that's this one. And one of my favorite tunes. Oh, come here, a window. We're gonna go with that one. We'll make you a full, no, not like that. Don't do this. Don't do this. Okay, this video is on YouTube. Wrong window. This video is on YouTube, but it is private as well. Keeping things hidden from people. And if you make it to the live, you get to see them. That's my Texas number plate. That's fun, Kenya. I hope that you enjoyed that. I hope so. I hope I didn't ramble on for too long, and that there was some kind of fun involved as well. Maybe a little bit. Not saying that we have to do this all the time, but to be honest with you, for me, this works a lot better to be able to talk through things as opposed to taking screenshots and trying to describe something. It somehow, I would say, gives a bit of a better visual. That is my opinion. My opinion doesn't count, but yours does. Julie-san, thank you so much. I appreciate that. And thank you, Michael, Don Miguel. Buona, Michael, for tonight. Buona, Michael. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate you as always. Have yourself a beautiful day, Julie-san. One condition, that you stay safe. Amina, hey, it's good to see you. I'm so sorry if you were there before and I didn't see your name. I am so sorry. I was so busy focusing on the puzzle I had here. Thank you so much, Robert, as well. Wingman, I appreciate that you were here. Y'all have a great evening, great rest of your day, on one condition, that you please stay safe as per usual. I would love to see you and chat with you domani, mañana, tomorrow. And I forgot the Swahili name for tomorrow. Anyway, kwaheri sana, that means goodbye. Rafikis, my friends. Take care. Bye.